Oh yes, welcome back to Exhaust Sports Auto. My name is Kevin, and we are here today to check out this 2004 Porsche Boxster. Not the S, just a regular one, but it's only got 45,000 miles on it, and it's going for about $14,000. So that's why I'm here to check this out. It's a pragmatic vehicle, sports car that normal human beings can actually afford to own. I just did a review on that Toyota Camry right there at the same dealership. This is European Performance in Cary, Raleigh, North Carolina, a place that specializes in Porsches. They service Porsches, all that good stuff. So that's why I come here. You buy something like this, have it serviced at a shop like this, and not cost you an arm and a leg. That's why we're here to look at it. There's other alternatives like Miatas and other extracurricular activities. MR2, that is technically the cheapest mid-engine car a normal human can get, but this is a Porsche, come on. So we'll talk about that. But yes, I like the price point. I like the fact that this isn't super expensive to maintain, the fact that it actually gets pretty decent fuel economy as well for being a Boxster 6 engine. So before we get this thing out on the road, let's leave all the dealership's information, talk to Ryan, all that stuff will be down below in the description box if you want to check this vehicle out. But also, make sure to do all the YouTube things like subscribing, liking, disliking, sharing, commenting, all the extracurriculars. Make sure you do that because you got to do all of it all the time, every day. And if we do that, we can maybe get some new cars to review. So let's enough talking. Let's just get this out there because I have actually reviewed a Porsche Boxster S. It was a 2013 model year, and I did like that car, but unfortunately there's a few things wrong with it, like a stupid Fab Speed exhaust on it that made it sound like a tin can. That was unfortunate. But this one, all stock, baby, and it sounds incredible. Not that, I'm talking about the engine that this particular vehicle has. This 2.7 liter Boxster 6 produces about 225 horsepower and about 192 pound-feet of torque. I love it, man. All right, good stuff there. But we'll touch on that in a little bit. But let's go ahead, let's talk about it. So, obviously this is not the S model, so what are you missing with the S model? So, obviously it's gonna cost more money in the used market, but also you're gonna get a larger engine, actually a physically larger engine. This is not the turbocharged days where they just crank up the boost. You get a 3.2 liter, produces about 260 something horsepower and about 225 pounds-feet of torque. So you get that as well. But honestly, this is the most simplistic way of this is actually the most simplistic way of getting this vehicle, you know what I'm saying? You also get upgraded brakes, a lot of things with the S model, but this is pragmatically what most people can get. Not bad at all, not bad at all. You even have a digital display for your speedometer as well. This is a very highly coveted car when it first came out, man. This was affordable back then, and so you have a pretty nice surplus of these vehicles. Good aftermarket following for this vehicle as well. You can get some additional parts for it, so that's very good because this is it's always been looked down upon as being like the lesser, the poor man's 911, all this stuff. And some people didn't really like the way it looked. Honestly, at this point in time, at these prices, I don't really care how it looks. I just care that this is a fun driving experience. Now, there is a constant little rattle coming from the back. That's one thing I detected upon. But one thing I like about these Porsche products is that they don't compromise on the ride quality. Part of that has to do with the fact that this thing has 17-inch wheels on it in all four corners, 205 wide tires up front, and actually 255s in the back, so that's something to keep in mind. Pedal placement is a little strange, but you get used to it. Brakes, everything works on here. For a pragmatic sports car for the street, this is fantastic, and that's what I like about these vehicles. The clutch is actually kind of up high a little bit, so that's something you have to keep in mind. Clutch takes a little bit of getting used to with these cars, but it's not terrible. And taking over some of these terrible bumps here, you know, it's still riding absolutely beautifully. There is this constant rattle, but aside from that, this is pretty good. And there is, you know, this thing is running on some good Continental Extreme Contact tires, excellent tires on this thing. Still produces a bit of road noise, but again, for a sports car, this is fantastic. There's no compromise in ride quality. I can get over the noise. And speaking of noise, it's got a nice little raspy 6-cylinder engine, absolute gem of a motor. About to test out that little handling here in a little bit. Very, very solid chassis. Absolutely fantastic chassis, man. Really loving that. That was super solid. This feels, you know, here's the thing. A lot of people are probably trying to compare this to a Miata. I haven't driven the absolute, like, kind of oldest Miata of this generation, but I have driven, like, the ND2 Miata and stuff like that. Here's the thing with the Miatas. They always have, like, this more lightweight feel to them. This actually feels a lot more solid and more pinned down. That's one of the things I have noticed with these Porsche products, actually. With the kind of newer Boxster, the Boxster S, I actually said this in that review as well. It feels a lot more solid. It feels like it weighs more than it does, but like it doesn't. It only weighs 2,800 pounds. This is the lightest, the most lightweight model that you can get. There was an automatic version, not the PDK. The PDK days that was later on. That was the 2013 Boxster S that I reviewed. So this vehicle, no PDK. But the PDK was amazing in the Boxster S, I'm not going to lie, with the 2013 one. But the Triptronic thing of back in the day, that was not that great. So this is a 5-speed, okay? That's what you got with this particular model. I think the next generation, the 987, actually got the 6-speed manual transmission, so something to keep in mind. But this 5-speed, I said this about the Cayman S review I did as well. It's about the same era as this vehicle. Actually, no, it was a 2006, and that particular vehicle also had a very kind of like buttery, soft feeling manual transmission box. And this is kind of the same thing. It feels, you know, it feels kind of mushy, but it feels so smooth at the same time. I do like it in a weird way, but it's just something, again, you have to get used to all this stuff. It's not something I just got in like the Miatas, you know, I was just whipping in, no problem. You know, actually, you know, it took me a little bit of time to kind of get used to it. And obviously only 5 speeds, so your cruising speed is going to be a little bit higher, but despite that, it still gets 20 in the city, 29 in the highway. Of course, you got to use premium fuel, but I'm just saying that's some good fuel economy numbers for sure. Steering rack, you know, nice direct steering rack for the hydraulic rack here. Absolutely love it. Feels absolutely perfect, and you know, it actually feels a lot more substantial than you would think for this little tiny car. It's only 170 inches long, 2,800 pounds, but it feels heavier, it feels more substantial. It feels like a quality product in your hands when you pilot and direct it and when you sit in it. It's a very low slung car. It's another thing I have to keep in mind, but once you're in it, it feels open, airy, and it just feels right, man. I just really appreciate this. And I can see why it was absolutely so sought after. And if you're worried about the power in this thing, it's absolutely a non-issue with me. It's got plenty of pull. That's another thing with the Miatas. You know, I love the Miata because it doesn't have 1 billion horsepower in it. It's got the usable amount of horsepower for a fun sports car. So it's kind of the same thing here as well. So I really like that. Picks up speed so well, and that raspy sounding engine, it is such a gem. I really do love that as well. Doesn't need a stupid exhaust or a tin can exhaust on here. It just sounds absolutely luscious. So leave it as is. It is fantastic. And there is another element of this car that I'm totally not talking about. That's because I want to preserve the audio, of course. Driving with the top down. I drove the 2013 Boxster with the top down, and it was a sublime experience. It really transforms this car. Same thing with the Miata as well. These convertible cars are just so much fun to pilot around in. It just absolutely transforms the experience. And another thing, of course, it is a mid-engine vehicle. So this might be one of your first mid-engine options unless you decide to go for like an MR2 or something like that. Heel toes are very easy, and the same thing with the Cayman S as well. But again, you just got to kind of get used to the vehicle at first there. Okay, but anyway, yeah, mid-engine car. This is one of your probably first kind of mid-engine cars, rear-wheel drive, all that good stuff. And here's the thing. You have to be a little bit more careful with the mid-engine car if you're driving with the traction control off, all that, crazy stuff. If you kind of lose it in a rear-wheel drive front-engine car, it's kind of more predictable. These things, they'll pretty much like spin out completely, but this is a very solid kind of pinned-down feeling, good experience in this vehicle. So you have a lot of confidence driving it. Just know that if you drive it like a complete jerk-off, you do have to keep in mind the dynamics of this car. It is a mid-engine vehicle. So it's fun, though. It's got perfect kind of like weight distribution, all that good stuff. They really fine-tuned it, and this is an 04 model, so it's one of the last years for this particular generation. So it's one of the more perfected ones, as we're about to talk about in the interior segment. That this actually has like the glass kind of a rear windshield on it, so that's good, the rear window. So it doesn't crack open like the plastic ones did of the earlier model years before 2003. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Now, of course, keep in mind the typical things with these Porsche products, the IMS bearings and all that crap. Kind of even went sideways on me a little bit there, and it was absolutely perfect. Love it, man. So easy to catch it, no drama with this car. It's just such a fun little vehicle, fun little experience that it's something that you should definitely look into in the used car market. If you're looking at things like the Miata and all that good stuff, you might be better off with this vehicle because this was a very expensive car, like 40, 50 grand, I believe, when it was new. Significantly cheaper than a 911, of course, but it is a higher priced vehicle. And the way everything is tuned, the way everything's set up in here, mid-engine, it's a quality vehicle, quality setup. It's got a cheaper suspension setup, yes, strut-based suspension in all four corners, but Porsche's not stupid. They know how to make a car feel good and feel right. It's only got 2,800 pounds. Man, it's such a great experience. I said the same thing about the Cayman S and the 2013 Boxster S as well. Being a manual really does perfect it, although this manual transmission, the ones in the Porsche products are kind of more buttery and almost feels like it's more meant for cruising, but it still feels good in a weird way, but I wish it was a little bit more solid, but for the most part, I really don't mind. The only cons I really found was this little strange thing that keeps rattling. I don't know what it is. I think it's something that's maybe stuck back there. You just gotta like remove it. I don't know what it is, but yeah, otherwise I have no real issues with it. Yes, it does produce a little bit more road noise. It's not as refined as like other cars because it's a sports car, right? No double pane glass, nothing like that, but I don't care. It helps you be more connected with your environment, with the engine, all that stuff. And when you put the top down, all that gets amplified times 10. So something to keep in mind. I just didn't drive like that to preserve the audio, but this is fantastic for sure, this interior segment. So how is this thing aged? Honestly, for the most part, not too bad, but you have to keep in mind this, whoever had this car before, they put like this nonsense fake carbon fiber steering wheel inserts here, so it's kind of cracked up a little bit. Need to replace that, but otherwise it's actually not too bad actually. All the leather qualities, Porsche leather always holds up extremely well. Just a slight bit of wrinkles and stuff like that, but overall not too bad. It's even got a little bit more comfort creatures like heated seats for the front two seats here. Obviously there's no rear seats, but there is two trunks. I'll talk about that in a little bit. You have the Bose audio system here. Some of the speakers, it's a little, kind of popped out here a little bit, but it actually sounds pretty decent in here. I'm not gonna lie, for this model year, it sounds good for the time. Absolutely it does. This is actually a very decent sound system, so you can actually enjoy that. So that's good. The center stack here, there's not a whole lot going on here, but it's a little bit obtuse, a little bit of everything's got a little bit of learning curve here. Porsche, they do everything in a little bougie kind of way, so it's a little bit, something you got to get used to. Slightly, sticky buttons here, but not too bad once you press on them, so that's good. Vibrates a lot though when you get the air conditioning going. It's a very raw feeling car, so that's kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, radio system sounds pretty good. one-touch automatic windows for both these windows. That's fantastic. Doors have a nice quality, kind of heavy feel to it. It's only a 2,800-pound car, but it feels nice, solid, and heavy, so there's that. But it's storage. There's way more storage in here than a Miata. That's the main thing. I mean, even in here, and the glove box is actually a decent size, and you have a little kind of shelf back there. You got this little armrest thing, which I believe opens up, but I believe it's locked right now, but whatever. You even have a place to put your phone, actually, so that's nice. I mean, my Note 10 Plus kind of barely fits in there, but it fits, so that's great. And of course, you got a physical key you got to put in, Le Mans style, all that good stuff. So there's that. But, it's a nice little vehicle. It's reasonably solid in here. It's only when you really kind of try to push up against things. But even then, this is actually, it's aged very well, but it's only got 45,000 miles on it. Keep that in mind. But it is like a 16, 17-year-old car at this point. So there is that. But decently refined. You pay up for that, and that's what I'm saying. If you're looking at a Miata, consider this as well. And also, it's mid-engine, so that's fun. Something that you want to, if you want to experience that, this is one of the cheapest ways to get a mid-engine car, a proper one from Porsche. And here's some more storage things. It's got 2 trunks. So it's mid-engine, but they designed it in such a cool way where you get 2 trunks. I mean, that's way more than what you could say about any Miata or any other sports car. It's actually decently designed. If you got the Cayman, you get a hatchback in the back. So that's why I really like these cars, even over a 911, because it's not only cheaper to buy, but it's actually a lot more practical. So if you care about that, well, there you go. You even have a spare tire up there in the front trunk. You also have a CD player up there, like this, 6-disc CD changer thing up there. And we got some decent amount of space in the back trunk as well, and the shelf that I mentioned before. So that's absolutely fantastic. Great design vehicle by Porsche, man. Something I recommend. There's not a whole lot of compromises to make here. It makes sense. It might not be the prettiest car on the road. It might not be all that, but it's decently reliable. Make sure to get that IMS stuff taken care of. That's about it. That's the most important thing. But otherwise, oil changes, stuff like that is actually pretty cheap with these cars. So that's very good. If you're an owner of a Boxster, please do let me know your thoughts below about this vehicle after owning it. I want the comment section to be like a forum page, basically. I know you guys are very smart out there, very smart people watching these videos. Share your thoughts. I mean, heck, talk about a Miata, talk about the MR2, other things. It doesn't have to be about this particular car. Just share any experience that you have in the comment section. It could definitely help people out. A lot of people read it, so that's good. And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the Boxster. It's a fun car, man. You don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on brand new cars. These things are just as fun, and it can save you a ton of money. And you still got the prestige of driving a Porsche. Few people were actually looking at this car while I was driving it, so something to keep in mind. Still gathers attention. So I'm going to leave all of European Performance's information down below, and definitely do hit them up. They specialize in Porsches, all that good stuff. So I'll see you guys in the next video. It'll be posted on the end screen here. Take care. Goodbye.